Thinking about myself growing up, every time I picked up my flute at 12 and 13 years old, I imagined myself being on a stage, soloing with an orchestra, trying to mimic James Galway. But then, as I got older, that vision kind of faded out a little bit because I didn't look like James Galway. And that started to play a role in my life, and I started to feel like there was a lot of opportunities that I wasn't going to get because I was a Black man studying classical music in Germany, in Europe, in the mecca of classical music that I would be taking as a joke. Then I found my first Black flute teacher. That was Eric Lamb. And he taught me that I can do anything I want to do.
When I think of whether or not I'm welcome in classical music, it's a really hard question for me to answer and to reconcile in myself. Growing up in a very affluent and predominantly white neighborhood as a kid, I didn't feel welcome anywhere. Classical music was just an extension of that, but it became really difficult. When you first start out in classical music in elementary school, a good amount of people look like you. You know, it's very wide range and diverse amount of people. But as it gets more complex, as the music gets more difficult, as private lessons are needed, people of color tend to be weeded out, sometimes unintentionally and sometimes what can feel like intentionally. And by the time you get to the end of your career, there's only a couple of us at the top.
If the recordings don't exist, we can't play them on the radio. And recognizing that gap in the industry, All Classical Portland created the Recording Inclusivity Initiative to proactively become a part of the change we wanted to see and hear. All Classical Portland is based in the heart of Portland, Oregon. We serve Oregon and Southwest Washington, and we're a small team, but mighty. We've been punching way above our weight class for nearly 40 years. And so by having this vast reach, we've garnered not only listenership, but revenue, support, investment from listeners around the world. And it's allowed us to tackle some of these bigger issues using art and music as the vehicle.
RII is doing something groundbreaking. I think one of the main things that's beautiful about RII is that it involves the community, that it looks for the voices of our community so that we can continue to uplift and make change in this genre.
Recording Inclusivity Initiative is at its core designed to make recordings. We're making 5 recordings as part of this inaugural initiative. We put together a community panel of extraordinary human beings, artists, educators, conductors, musicians. They oversaw the process. More than 100 nominations came in, and through that process, 5 were selected. We selected 3 composers in residence, 3 living composers, to come and make their recordings, have a creative residency.
And what I want to continue doing is to move things forward so that we can hear more of underrepresented composers. There is so much to be told, yet we are forgetting about an important part of our history and our culture that embeds jazz, Latinx communities, Native American cultures. Why would you want to forget that? So I want to keep this going, keep this momentum going. And with this initiative, it's the first of its kind, but it's not the last of its kind. That is for sure.
One of the beautiful things about RII is that it's enabled us to create a blueprint, a map for other stations to follow and learn how they can do this work in their own communities, in their own unique way.
Producing 5 state-of-the-art recordings is a realistic goal, one that we believe can be replicated by stations regardless of market size or budget. And that was really important to us. that we all do our part. And if we all do our part and all create 5 recordings, then we'll achieve the goal together. And to me, it's kind of like a public radio fundraiser. It's like, if everybody just does a little bit, big things can happen.
Recording Inclusivity Initiative was launched at a very tumultuous time in our community. And though it felt like that was the right thing to be doing right then, and it was, that work has been coming for a long time.
To guide an initiative like this, for me, is groundbreaking. I feel like I needed to do something like this. I'm thinking about my upbringing, where I've came from, where I am now, where I'm going. RII is a perfect place for me to make a change in the classical music industry. And today, I think, is a perfect time for young people to join classical music because it tells their story. Now, more so than ever before. So I'm like, heck yeah. Classical music? Yes, I got you.
All Classical Portland's Recording Inclusivity Initiative
is changing America's playlist.